What happens when one of the biggest comedians in the world sits down for what should be a simple morning interview, only to face disrespect so blatant that he has no choice but to walk off set in front of millions of viewers? It only took 42 seconds of condescending questions for a host to push a guest too far, turning a routine publicity appearance into one of the most explosive moments in morning television history. The studio lights were bright that morning. Kevin Hart walked onto the Good Morning America set with his signature energy, that infectious smile lighting up the room. He had done this 1,000 times before. Morning shows were part of the game when you had a new movie coming out. He waved to the audience, gave Robin Roberts a warm hug, shook hands with Michael Strawn, nodded at George Stephanopoulos, and then took his seat next to Lara Spencer on the famous yellow couch. The audience applauded. Kevin settled into his spot, adjusting his jacket, still smiling. He was here to talk about his latest comedy special, maybe crack a few jokes, share some stories, and promote his projects. Standard stuff. Easy stuff. He had been doing press runs for years. This was supposed to be fun. Robin Roberts started things off with warmth in her voice. Kevin Hart, welcome back to Good Morning America. It is always such a pleasure to have you here with us. Kevin leaned forward, animated as always. Thank you, thank you. I am happy to be here. You know I love coming to see you all. This is always a good time. Michael Strawn jumped in, his voice full of genuine interest. Man, and I have been watching the clips from your new special, and I was laughing so hard. You talk about your kids, your life, everything. How do you keep coming up with this material? Kevin laughed, settling into the comfortable rhythm of the conversation. You know, life gives you material every single day. My kids are at that age now, where they think they are smarter than me. My daughter looked at me the other day and said, "Dad, you are not funny." And I am standing there thinking, I have sold out arenas, but my own daughter does not think I am funny. That is the material right there. The panel laughed. The audience laughed. Everything was flowing naturally. George Stephanopoulos nodded along, clearly enjoying the conversation. Robin smiled warmly. Your ability to find humor in everyday life is really what makes you so relatable to people. And that's a gift. Kevin pointed at her, nodding. That's exactly it. I am not trying to be something I am not. I am just sharing my life, and people connect with that because they go through the same things. We are all human. Then, Lara Spencer shifted in her seat. There was something about the way she moved that changed the energy. She had been quiet up until this point, just watching. But now she had that look on her face. That look that said she had something to say, and she was going to say it whether it fit the conversation or not. So Kevin, Lara began, her tone already carrying an edge that had not been there in the rest of the conversation. I have to ask you something that I think a lot of people are wondering. Kevin turned to her, still smiling, not sensing what was coming. Sure, go ahead. Lara tilted her head, and her voice took on this condescending quality. Do you ever worry that your comedy is, I do not know, a little too accessible? Like, do you ever think that maybe you should be doing something more sophisticated instead of just, talking about your kids and your everyday life? The studio went quiet. You could feel the temperature in the room change instantly. Robin Roberts' smile faltered. Michael Strawn's eyebrows went up. George Stephanopoulos shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Kevin's smile faded just a bit. He blinked, processing what had just been said to him. I am sorry. What? Lara continued, seemingly oblivious to the fact that she had just insulted one of the most successful comedians in the world on live television. I mean, you are very successful, obviously, but do not you think that your comedy is kind of, simple? Like anyone could talk about their family. Do not you want to challenge yourself more? Michael Strawn immediately tried to step in. Hold on now. I do not think that is fair to say. But Kevin raised his hand, his expression shifting from confused to serious. No, let her finish. I want to hear this. Lara kept going, digging herself deeper. I am just saying, there are comedians out there who do political humor, who tackle big issues, who make people think. And you are talking about, what? Your kid's not listening to you. Is that really the kind of legacy you want? The audience was silent. You could hear people shifting in their seats. This was not the fun, light morning show segment anyone had expected. Kevin leaned back, his jaw tight. When he spoke, his voice was calm, but there was steel underneath it. So let me make sure I understand what you are saying to me right now. You are sitting here on national television telling me that my comedy, the comedy that has sold out arenas all over the world, the comedy that has connected with millions of people, is too simple? Lara seemed to realize she might have gone too far, but instead of backing down, she doubled down. I'm just asking a question. I am just wondering if you ever think about elevating your material. Robin Roberts tried to intervene, her voice diplomatic but firm. Lara, I think what makes Kevin so successful is that he speaks to universal experiences. That's not simple. That's brilliant. Kevin held up his hand again. No, Robin, I appreciate that, but I want to address this directly. He turned back to Lara, and now there was no smile at all. You are sitting here questioning my legacy. My legacy. Do you know how many people have told me that my comedy helped them through hard times? Do you know how many people have said that coming to my show was the first time they laughed after losing someone they loved? But you are sitting here telling me that is not good enough because I am not doing political jokes? Lara crossed her arms defensively. I am not saying it is not good enough. I am saying maybe you are playing it safe. That was it. That was the moment. You could see it in Kevin's eyes. Something shifted. Kevin's voice got very quiet, which somehow made it more powerful. Playing it safe. You think what I do is playing it safe. George Stephanopoulos finally spoke up. Maybe we should move on to talk about the actual special. But Kevin was not done. No, George. I think we need to address this because this is disrespectful. I came here to talk about my work, to share some laughs with people watching at home, and instead I am being told that my entire approach to comedy is somehow beneath what I should be doing. Lara shook her head, her voice getting defensive. That's not what I said. Kevin leaned forward. That's exactly what you said. You said my comedy is too accessible, which is just another way of saying it is too simple. You said anyone could talk about their family, which dismisses the craft of taking everyday experiences and making them universally funny. And then you questioned whether I am challenging myself, as if you have any idea what goes into what I do. Michael Strawn nodded slowly. He has got a point, Lara. Lara's face flushed. I was just trying to have a conversation about the craft of comedy. Kevin's laugh was sharp and humorless. No, you were not. You were trying to make yourself sound smart by tearing down what I do. And let me tell you something about the craft of comedy. It is easy to make jokes about politics, because half the room will laugh, just because they agree with you. It is easy to make jokes that make people think, because you are not actually trying to make them laugh. You are trying to make them nod their heads. But to take a moment from your real life, to tell a story about your daughter saying you are not funny, and to make an entire arena of people laugh until they cry, that takes skill. That takes craft. That takes a connection with the audience that you clearly do not understand. Robin Roberts was nodding along. Kevin is right. Now, what he does looks easy because he makes it look easy, but that is the mark of a true professional. Lara was not backing down, though. Her voice took on this sharp edge. I think you are being overly sensitive. It was just a question. And that was when Kevin stood up. Not quickly, not dramatically at first. He just stood up, slowly removing his microphone. What are you doing? Lara asked, her eyes going wide. Kevin looked at her, then at the camera, then back at her. I am not being overly sensitive. What I am being is self-respecting. I have been in this business for a long time. I have sat through tough interviews. I have handled criticism. I have dealt with people who did not like my work. But what I do not do is sit somewhere where I am being openly disrespected for no reason. George Stephanopoulos stood up too, his hands out in a calming gesture. Kevin, let us just take a breath here. Kevin shook his head. No, George, I appreciate you. I appreciate Robin. I appreciate Michael. You all have always been good to me. But I am not going to sit here and let someone tell me that what I have built, what I have worked for, what I have sacrificed for, is somehow less than because it is not what she thinks comedy should be. The cameras were still rolling. The audience was completely silent. This was live television, and everyone knew they were watching something unprecedented unfold. Lara stood up now too, her voice rising. You are really going to walk off because I asked you one question? Kevin turned back to her, and his voice was steady and clear. It was not one question. It was a series of insults disguised as questions. And yeah, I am going to walk off because I have a choice. I can sit here and let you continue to disrespect me, or I can stand up and show the people watching at home that you do not have to accept disrespect just because someone has a microphone and a camera. Michael Strawn reached out. Kevin, man, come on. Let us figure this out. Kevin put his hand on Michael's shoulder. Michael, you are good people. You always have been. But I am done here. I came to have fun, to make people laugh, to talk about my work. I did not come here to defend my entire career because somebody wants to feel superior. Robin Roberts looked genuinely upset. Kevin, we value you. You know that. Kevin nodded at her. I know you do, Robin. This is not about you. This is about respect. And when you lose respect for yourself by letting people treat you any kind of way, that is when you have lost everything. Lara threw her hands up. This is ridiculous. I cannot believe you are making such a big deal out of this. And that comment, that dismissal of his feelings, that refusal to acknowledge that maybe she had crossed a line, that sealed it. Kevin looked directly at her. You know what is ridiculous? The fact that you still do not see what you did wrong. You insulted me, questioned my legacy, dismissed my craft, and now you are mad because I am not just sitting here, taking it with a smile on my face. That is what is ridiculous. He turned to the camera, speaking directly to the viewers at home. To everyone watching, thank you for your support over the years. Thank you for coming to my shows, for watching my specials, for connecting with the stories I tell. I do this for you, not for people who think they are better than us. Then he looked at the panel one more time. Robin, Michael, George, you all take care. It is always love with you. He pointedly did not look at Lara. George tried one more time. Kevin, please, let us go to commercial and talk about this. Kevin was already walking toward the edge of the set. There is nothing to talk about. I know my worth. I know what I bring to the table, and I am not going to sit at a table where I am not respected. Lara called after him, her voice defensive and angry. You are being unprofessional. Kevin stopped. He turned around slowly. Unprofessional. You want to talk about unprofessional. What is unprofessional is inviting a guest onto your show and then spending your time with them trying to tear them down. What is unprofessional is disguising insults as questions. What is unprofessional is refusing to apologize when you have clearly hurt someone. So if I am being unprofessional by standing up for myself, then I will wear that badge proudly. Robin Roberts stood up, and you could see tears in her eyes. Kevin, please. Kevin's expression softened when he looked at her. Robin, you are one of the good ones. You always have been. But I cannot stay. I just cannot. The studio was in chaos now. Producers were probably screaming in people's ears. The audience did not know whether to applaud or stay silent. The other hosts were all standing, not sure what to do. Michael Strawn walked over to Kevin. "Man, I get it. I understand why you are upset." Kevin nodded. "I know you do, Michael. You have always understood. But this is something I have to do. I have spent my whole career proving myself, showing people that I belong, that I am worthy of the success I have. And I am tired, man. I am tired of having to prove it over and over again to people who have already decided that what I do does not matter." Lara was still standing by the couch, her face red. "I never said what you do does not matter." Kevin looked at her one last time. "You did not have to say it. It was in every word you spoke. It was in your tone. It was in the way you looked at me when you asked if I wanted to do something more sophisticated. As if connecting with millions of people is not sophisticated. As if making someone forget their problems for an hour is not sophisticated. As if bringing joy into people's lives is somehow less than." George Stephanopoulos approached carefully. "Kevin, I think there has been a misunderstanding here." Kevin shook his head. "No, George, there has not been a misunderstanding. She said what she said. She meant what she meant. And I am responding accordingly." The audience was starting to murmur now. People were pulling out their phones. Everyone knew this was going to be everywhere within minutes. Robin tried again. "Can we please just take a moment and breathe and figure this out?" Kevin's voice was gentle when he responded to her. "Robin, you are trying to fix something that is not yours to fix. This is between me and my own self-respect, and I am choosing me." Lara finally seemed to realize the magnitude of what was happening. "Jan, I did not mean to offend you." Kevin looked at her, and there was something sad in his expression now. That might be the worst part. You did not even realize you were doing it. You did not think twice about questioning everything I have built, and that tells me everything I need to know. He turned back toward the exit. The cameras followed him. Every single person in that studio was watching Kevin Hart walk away from a live morning show interview. Michael called out, "Kevin, you are always welcome back here, man." Kevin raised his hand in acknowledgement, but kept walking. Robin's voice cracked. "Kevin, you are family to us." Kevin paused, turned slightly. "Then treat me like family. All of me. Not just when it is convenient." And then he was gone. Just like that. He walked off the set, past the cameras, past the crew, and then out of the studio. The 4 remaining hosts stood there in stunned silence. Lara slowly sat back down, her face a mixture of anger and shock. Robin wiped at her eyes. Michael ran his hand over his head. George stared at where Kevin had been standing. The audience did not know what to do. Some people started clapping. Others just sat there with their mouths open. Robin was the first to speak, her voice shaky. "We are going to take a quick break." But before they could cut to commercial, Lara spoke up. "I cannot believe he just did that." Michael turned to her, and his voice was firm. "Lara, you pushed him. You kept pushing him." Lara's eyes went wide. "I was asking legitimate questions." Robin shook her head. "Those were not questions, Lara. Those were judgments. There is a difference." George nodded. "She is right. You questioned his entire approach to comedy. You questioned his legacy. You did it on live television. What did you think was going to happen?" Lara crossed her arms. "I thought he would have a conversation with me like an adult." Michael laughed, but there was no humor in it. "He tried to have a conversation. He explained himself. He told you why what you were saying was disrespectful, and you kept going. You kept dismissing him." Lara looked at the camera, then back at her co-hosts. "So you are all taking his side?" Robin's voice was measured but firm. This is not about sides, Lara. This is about respect. Kevin Hart is one of the most successful comedians in the world. He has worked incredibly hard to get where he is. He has earned his place. And you treated him like he was somehow less than, because his comedy is not what you personally think it should be. George added, and when he told you that you were being disrespectful, you told him he was being too sensitive. That is not okay. Lara stood up again. I am not going to apologize for asking tough questions. Michael shook his head. Those were not tough questions. Tough questions would be asking him about challenges in his career, about how he has grown as an artist, about specific choices he has made. What you did was belittle his work. The studio was still live. The cameras were still rolling. The audience was watching this entire exchange unfold. Robin looked at the camera. We need to go to commercial. Now. As the show finally cut away, the damage was done. Kevin Hart had walked off Good Morning America, saying he had stood up for himself in front of millions of viewers. He had refused to sit there and take disrespect just because it was wrapped up in the package of interview questions. The other hosts continued to sit on that couch, the empty space where Kevin had been sitting like a silent accusation. Lara looked shaken now, maybe finally understanding what had happened. I really did not mean to. Robin cut her off. It does not matter what you meant. It matters what you did. And what you did was drive away a guest who came here in good faith. Michael nodded. A guest who has been nothing but good to us every time he has been here. A guest who brings energy and joy and laughter. And now, he is gone. George looked at Lara directly. You need to think about what just happened here. You need to really think about it. The studio audience was being ushered out. Producers were scrambling. Phones were ringing. Social media was exploding. But on that couch, in that moment, 4 hosts sat with the weight of what had just transpired. Lara's voice was small now. What do I do? Robin stood up, removing her microphone. You figure out why you thought it was okay to speak to him that way. And then you figure out if you would have said those same things to any other guest. Michael stood too. Because that is the real question, is it not? Would you have questioned anyone else's entire approach to their craft? Would you have called anyone else's work too simple, too accessible, not sophisticated enough? Lara did not answer. She could not answer. Because they all knew the truth. George was the last to stand. Respect is not something you give when you feel like it. It is something you give because it is the right thing to do. Kevin Hart deserved better than what he got today. And with that, the 3 of them walked off the set, leaving Lara sitting alone on the yellow couch in the bright studio lights, with the weight of her words hanging in the air and the echo of Kevin Hart's footsteps as he walked away from disrespect and toward his own dignity.